Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Our topic today is successfully managing the Traveler server. Our presenter is Heather Hottenstein from RPR Wyatt. Their website is listed here on our screen as www.rprwyatt.com. Thank you for attending today's webinar. This is a very popular topic. We have a limit of 100 attendees, which we have more registrations than attendees, so hopefully all of your coworkers will be able to log on, but it's a very popular topic. It looks like RPR Wyatt will probably set up another encore presentation so we can accommodate those that won't be allowed in today. So if you're arriving late and you're hearing this, you're one of the luckies, lucky 100s. After that, everyone will be told that the session is full. So we do apologize, but again, just a very popular topic. So in terms of what Notes Code is doing this for 2013, we will be adding more content type of webinars. The product demonars have been going well, and but we want to expand what we're offering into our Domino community, and RPR Wyatt was kind enough to prepare this presentation for you today. So thank you very much to RPR Wyatt. I know time is limited, and so we want to turn the time over to Heather. Heather, I'm changing the screen over to you.
Okay. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
We see your screen now. The show is yours.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much, Scott. And good morning to everybody. Truly appreciate you being here. So let's dive right in. As we all know, Traveler is an add-on product to the IBM Domino server, and it allows a user to synchronize their email, calendar, journal, to-dos, and contacts with a smartphone. And of course, these include devices running on the Apple iOS, Androids, Nokias, and Windows Mobile operating system. For any of you that have already installed Traveler or are apprehensive about starting or installing Traveler, Traveler is wicked easy to install. The install script runs in 3 to 5 minutes. You start the Domino server and Traveler just automatically loads. The next part of your testing is probably going to go to get a smartphone, configure it, and you see that you're off to the races. Without having to know anything about what's going on behind the scenes, you have now just successfully set up a Traveler environment. It really is the man behind the curtain. It just works. However, just like initially adopting a puppy is a lot of fun, you get that cute little ball of fur, it snuggles with you. It's not going to be long until you come home one day and find that your recliner chair has been torn to shreds. Your Traveler server is the same way. With no active maintenance or monitoring, your Traveler server will start to misbehave. As Traveler usage explodes in the environment, the server can quickly experience memory issues. Also, over time, you may start to see error messages on the server. If these things are allowed to go unchecked, server crashes may occur, and users will start complaining about mail synchronization issues. To prevent these issues from happening, there are steps that can be taken. The backend database of Traveler is called the Derby database, and it is physically located on your Domino server in the Domino Data Traveler NSTTSB folder. When Traveler is running, this database is in constant use, taking a real beating as it keeps track of what documents need to be synchronized. And just like any other object on disk, constant, repetitive use can cause corruption issues. When the Derby database starts to experience issues, you will see errors like those that are on our screen. Also, on startup, it may report Java errors. In order to avoid these errors, monthly defragmentation is recommended. You can run maintenance manually by taking down Traveler and HTTP on the Domino server, and then load Traveler with the defrag parameter. However, depending on your environment, the defrag can take 5 minutes to upwards of 30 minutes. And keep in mind that while this is running, Traveler and HTTP are both out of service. They are unavailable. So depending on your environment, this may be something that cannot be done during business hours and requires maintenance to be done during a true maintenance period after hours. And quite frankly, who really wants to work on the weekend? So IBM has given us this really cool feature where we can schedule the defrag to run automatically at server startup by using NTS defrag interval days in the notes.ini. Now, when your operating system administrator brings down Domino to install a patch, and after they restart the Domino server, the defragmentation will automatically run. And even better, once the defrag is done, Traveler and HTTP are restored to full functionality. Traveler loves memory. Cannot state that enough. The memory used is both conventional notes memory and Java memory. And in order to get the most out of your Traveler server in terms of number of users supported and performance, for Windows, use a 64-bit operating system and install Domino 64-bit. If you're looking to put Traveler on an existing Domino server and that server is running either BlackBerry Enterprise Server or SaneTime, then you're going to be forced to install Domino 32-bit and run Domino 32-bit. So if you're in that situation, consider begging for another server in order to put Traveler on its own server with true 64-bit Domino. Any address books available through Directory Assistance will be available to users on a Traveler device doing an address lookup. And this is regardless of how they are represented in the ACL. If you have secure directories like those containing contact information of your executives, board members, then you'll want to use NTS lookup enforce ACL in your notes.ini. This will force Traveler to obey the ACLs of the directories, meaning that only those that have access to the directory will have addresses returned from it. While I have far better things to do with my time than sniff for unsecured packets, not everyone feels that way. Protect your data and encrypt the data that is synchronizing with the mobile devices. For a conventional Traveler server, meaning it is standalone, you will configure Domino HTTP task to use SSL. And this is the same process that you would use for a mail server running iNotes or for a web server running a secure application. If you haven't implemented Traveler high availability pools, then you will want to use SSL on the load balancer. The behind-the-scenes traffic between the Traveler server, mail servers, and relational databases as part of the Traveler high availability pool does not need to be encrypted as long as it's behind a firewall. However, if you are wanting to encrypt this traffic, you can go ahead and do so. However, just remember that first of all, the configuration is completely done outside of Domino, and it can add upwards of 20% of overhead. Personally, I do not recommend it. My feeling is that as long as the load balancer is exposed outside of the firewall, the data on the server is not on the public wire, because the mobile device only communicates with that load balancer. So only the traffic between the load balancer and the mobile device needs to be considered a candidate for encryption. To make your mobile devices more secure, use either the device settings document in the Lotus Traveler database or add a Lotus Traveler settings document to a policy. Both do the exact same thing. The difference is that the policy document will trump the device settings document. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a Traveler settings document and show you the security and device access that's available. So I'm going to switch over here to my administration client. My Traveler server here is called AZPHX Web 1. And just 1 minute, having a moment of latency, apologize for that. Come on. All right, this is a presenter's absolute worst thing that could happen. Come on, server. All right, and actually I clicked on the wrong tab, so we're going to go to people and groups actually. And And we're going to go to the settings documents. And we're going to add setting and select the Lotus Traveler settings document. And there are multiple settings on here that you can set, but specifically I want to show you the settings, the security settings. And on this tab you can see that the subsequent tabs are directly in line with those mobile devices that are currently supported by Traveler. We have Windows Mobile, which has a few settings here, Nokia, Apple, and you can see on the Apple one that I also have the additional setting of prohibit camera. And then finally we have Android. Definitely want to consider using these settings. Primarily my advice, and the reason I would like to use these, is because this requires a password on the mobile phone in order to unlock it. And by setting that, you can also say how strong that password has to be, and an auto lockout period of when that device is actually put into a lock setting. The other setting I like on this tab is the device access setting. Traveler users by default do not have to have access to add new devices. As long as they can access your Domino server, they can set up as many devices as they want. And I have seen some users enable upwards of 10 devices. How they keep track of those devices, I have no idea, but they do it. And ultimately, this is going to put a higher load on your Traveler server. So as a systems administrator, and in order to secure your service, go ahead and use this setting where you require approval for device access, and specifically the number of devices. So by default, allow a user to put 2, 3, 4 devices on the Traveler server, but anything beyond that is going to require your approval before that device can access the Traveler server. Oops, there we go. Okay. As we all know, Traveler is a very fast-growing technology, both with regards to the smartphones and Traveler releases to keep up with this phone technology. Your users want to use these new phones. Your users want the enhanced functionality that these new phones bring to the table. And you as a Domino administrator want the new security features and bug fixes that the new releases of Traveler bring. Plan on upgrading your Traveler server more often than your other Domino servers. For example, Traveler 9 is set to be released in March in a few weeks, and it's going to be supporting new devices like Windows 8 Mobile OS and Surface tablets. And for the administrator, it brings to the table security enhancements that allow local control of the data stored on Androids and iPhones. However, in order to get there, you have to upgrade your Domino server to Domino 9. And you may not be ready to upgrade your Domino directory or your other servers. So put Traveler on its own server and its own Lotus Notes domain in order to easily upgrade and not impact your other Domino servers. Traveler log files are a great source of information in terms of troubleshooting and finding out what is wrong with Traveler. They're stored on the server in the Domino Data IBM Technical Support Traveler Logs folder. The NTS Errors log provides user and server errors like these examples. More than likely, these have also been written to the Notes log file. However, this is a place to just see the Traveler-specific errors. NTS activity and NTS usage record information regarding the interaction with the mobile devices. Usage is just synchronization information, where activity is both synchronization and session authentication. Here is a snippet from the activity log, and you can see where a user authenticated, logged off, and had a prime sync event. And here's an example from a usage log. You can see that this is the same synchronization information that was in the activity log, but no session information has been recorded. While the information in the logs is a good base of data, there may be times that you need additional information. And in Traveler, this level of debugging is called finest logging. You can enable it either for all users via the Lotus Traveler tab in the server document, or per person by using the server console command shown here. Just like with any debugging, keep in mind this creates a large amount of data being written to the server. And as a result, you only want to use this when truly needed for troubleshooting problems, and once you're done, be sure to remove it. Once NTS activity is enabled, it's going to look like this. You can see it's a lot more detailed information. You can see that detailed information regarding document synchronizing, and you can also see how long that synchronization took. So let's discuss an example of where finance logging can be your get-out-of-jail-free card. And this is going to be a reenactment of a real-world example that happened to me with a fussy executive. However, to protect the identity of that fussy executive, in our example, we're going to use Heather Hottenstein as the executive. So overall, a few weeks ago, Heather Hottenstein began complaining that she was not getting emails on her Android. These are emails that are time sensitive. They require responses in a timely manner. She is the type of person that travels internationally frequently. She's not connected to a PC or a laptop, and it's vitally important that those messages get on the Android in a timely fashion. So, Domino administrator, wanting to be a good Domino administrator, thought it was prudent to turn on finance level logging. A few days later, Heather complained once again that she was missing an important message on her Android. Because the sender saved a copy of the message, it was very easy to determine the message ID. And by using the notes log file, that we could see the mail message was indeed delivered to Heather. However, when looking at the mail file, the message in question could not be found. So the next step was going to the activity log on the Domino server and searching for that message ID. Searching for that message ID, we did find the information showing that that message was synchronized at 12:20 p.m. Further searching of the activity log showed that that message was read 3 minutes later at 12:23. And finally, that message was deleted 7 minutes later at 12:30 p.m. and synchronized back to the mail file. So, remember to use finance level logging to either prove or disprove issues with Traveler. At some point, you will probably need to open a support request with IBM in order to fix a Traveler issue. And IBM will probably request data in order to better review the problem. It used to be that to share this information, you would have to run a system dump, tell Traveler to collect the data via a server console command, then go to your server and get the zip file, and finally upload that information to IBM. Now, you just issue tell Traveler PMR number, and the information is automatically created, collected, and sent to IBM. Just keep in mind, this does require outbound FTP be opened on the Traveler server. Just like with Domino, you may have to fine-tune memory in order to increase performance. There are 4 memory thread pools that can be tuned, and 3 of them are configured in the NTS configuration XML file. This file is located on your Domino server in Domino Data Traveler CFG, and specifically it is the NTS config.xml file. Prime sync threads are responsible for deciding what changes in the mail file are going to synchronize. By default, this value is 10, and ultimately this is something you will probably never need to change and probably shouldn't change. But if for some reason you do have to change this value, go to the configuration file and modify TSS prime sync threads. The device sync threads synchronize messages between the mail file and the phone. These threads work in conjunction with the worker threads. By default, the value is 50 and can be modified by using TSS sync threads. Worker threads are used in device syncing. Whatever the value of the device sync thread setting is, the worker thread should be 2 times that amount. So as we can see, the default value is 100, which is indeed 2 times device sync value of 50. The fourth thread is the HTTP threads. These are used by the HTTP task, and there is one per HTTP connection. You configure these in the server document on the Domino server running Traveler, specifically on the Internet Protocol's HTTP tab and using the number of active threads field. The recommended value for HTTP threads is the number of devices times 1.2. For any of these threads, keep in mind that when you make a change, you will need to restart on your server both Traveler and HTTP in order for the change to take effect. The Traveler server has several associated console commands that are available via tell Traveler something. And on the server console, you have built-in help on these commands. Just go to your server console and issue tell Traveler ? A couple of good ones that will help you keep up with the heartbeat on the server are tell Traveler show user, mem show, and stat show. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my Domino server console in my admin client and show you what the output of these different commands looks like. There we go. So, for example, if I do tell Traveler ? That I spoke of a moment ago, and okay, hey Scott. There we go.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was figure out that window for a second.
Yep, sorry, I was muted.
That's okay. I had to figure out how to minimize that screen that had the right-hand corner block. Sorry about that.
Yep, not a problem.
I'm on live now. So, if I go ahead and I issue the tell Traveler ? Which I said is your help, this gives you an output of all of the different tell Traveler commands that are available and some high-level information on exactly what those commands will give you. But then specifically, like what I mentioned, is a few commands like tell Traveler show a specific user, and I'll use myself. And what you can see here is that this gives some really good information on my device. You can see what kind of device I'm using. You can see the last synchronization that occurred. You can see that the device is currently active. It's online. And really good information here is the fact that we have confirmed that the Traveler server can indeed access my mail file on my mail server. All right. Another good command, as I mentioned, is tell Traveler mem show. And if we send that command, oh, sorry, my bad, I have a typo here. This is a live demo. There we go. So what you can see here is output regarding CPU and memory utilization. So like for example here we have current memory, and if I scroll up a little bit, you can see here at the top we have header information, CPU, Java memory, etc. So this is really good information to keep in mind. First in terms of monitoring your Domino server, and then also anytime that you're troubleshooting a performance issue. All right, and so finally we have tell Traveler stat show. What this command does is it produces an output of every Traveler statistic that is part of your server statistic table. And just like with any server statistic, it's a good idea to monitor those that are important, to understand how your server is performing, and to use these values to proactively prevent problems, or if you get into a problem situation, use this information to resolve those problems. This time my coworker Alan is going to take the reins for a moment and discuss with you the histogram statistics. So stop.
All right, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Can you just go back to the slide? I think I had a slide
Absolutely.
for me.
There you go.
Next one. That's it. Okay. Oh,
Go back one.
no back one. There it is.
I think it's a timing thing.
Live demos are so fun. So what Heather just showed is the tell traveler, show stat. You can also do it show stat traveler. In any case, you get a big long list of statistics, and in the middle there, buried somewhere, will be some statistics that have the word histogram in the middle. And I pulled out just a couple of them to try to explain what they mean. I had to go through the documentation a number of times myself to get it, but basically what it does is it tries to convey how well a given traveler server is doing in communicating with the mail servers where the user's mail file is hosted. So if you look on the slide here, you see there's a column of information that starts with CN equals, and you'll notice that there's two different server names there. There's a server that ends in DOM1 and DOM2. That was our clever naming convention for Domino 1 and Domino 2. Those two servers are based in Phoenix, Arizona. And those are our two primary mail servers. And then you'll see at the very end of the line of each one of those bits of statistics is a range of numbers. So it'll, like the one at the very top of the list says 000-001 equals 4,210. What that's saying is that since the Traveler server has been running, it is needed to open up a mail file on DOM1, and the number of times that it took less than a second, that is between the 0 second and the 1 second, that happened 4,210 times. And now the next line underneath it says 001-002 equals 7. So that means the number of times that it had to open up a mail file on DOM1 and it took between 1 and 2 seconds was 7 times. And then the next one down, between 2 seconds and 5 seconds, well, that happened 14 times. And as you work your way down the list here, you start to understand that there'll be a set of these for each mail server that the Traveler server interacts with, and there'll also be a incremental count for the number of times that Traveler server tried to open a mail file on that mail server and how long it took. So this is kind of a sort of classic IBM thing in the sense that there's a lot of really good information in there, but it's really buried, and you'd have to be watching it very, very closely to notice, for instance, that all of a sudden there was a spike in the number of times that it took a given mail server to answer. Let's say all of a sudden that number in the 010 to 030 started to spike. So normally you would expect the the biggest number, which in our case is 4,210, to be between the 0 seconds and 1 second. So it's under a second. But if numbers in the higher range suddenly started to spike, that would be an indicator that the Traveler server is suddenly having difficulty communicating with a particular mail server. And this is a hard one to uncover because a given Traveler server might need to talk with a dozen or more different mail servers, so it would only affect a percentage of the users. So Scott, if you'd make me the presenter for a second, I'm just going to share my screen just for a moment or two, and then we'll give it back to Heather. Okay, so one screen here is the latest version of our product called Vital Signs, which is a tool for monitoring Domino and same time and mail services and quicker and so forth. But what I'm only going to show today is what we do with Traveler. So if I go to Server Health and then Traveler Health, what it does is brings up a page, and what we try to do is take the information that's buried in that set of statistics around histogram statistics, and color code it and make it easy to understand. So one thing about those statistics is that they're incremental. So every time the Traveler server updates does an update from a mail server, it updates one of those numbers to indicate how long it took. What's interesting as the administrator is to know what the interval is. So what Vital Signs will do is it'll periodically scan the Traveler server. Let's say it's doing that every 8 minutes or every 5 minutes or so, and it will remember the value for each of the mail servers that it communicates with, the range, so under a second, between 1 second and 2 seconds, between 2 seconds and 5 seconds. And if all of a sudden one of these ranges at the high end starts to spike, then that will turn the box that's associated with it will turn red, and that will send an alert out to you to let you know that, hey, the Traveler server is suddenly starting to have difficulty communicating with one of the mail servers. Now the other thing is, if you were looking at this and found that one of the boxes was red, you could see if that was an ongoing thing or just something that a one-time spike. So you can pick the server down here. Let's say we want to see how the Traveler server is doing in communicating with the DOM1 server, and then pick an interval. So that with every scan, here's how many times that particular category jumped. So you can see if it's a one-time spike like we had here, or it's an ongoing thing that's gone throughout the day. And normally you would expect that the number between under a second or under 2 seconds would be continually growing. So here we have like a cumulative mail open times, and the other ones at the high end would be flat. So this is basically our attempt to take the histogram statistics that are very text-oriented in the log file and turn it into something graphical that you can actually understand without having to spend a whole day analyzing it. So back to you, Heather.
All right, thank you.
And that's Q as well, Scott.
Working on it. Here we go.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Great. Just a reminder, before you jump back in, just a reminder that we will have a question and answer segment here at the end of Heather's presentation. So a lot of you have already started sending in questions. We'll address those at that segment. If you do have questions, go ahead and type them into the questions area in your control panel. All right. Sorry, Heather. Back to you.
That's all right. No problem. Thank you. All right. So Traveler High Availability. Traveler High Availability is where you have 2 or more Traveler servers configured in a pool that provides a level of fault tolerance and load balancing to your smartphones. It's not true disaster recovery because it does require that those Traveler servers be on the same network. However, avenues for synchronization. If you have 2 servers in your pool and one goes down, the second Traveler server automatically picks up the load, and to the smartphone, to the user, there is no outage. Traveler servers, conventional, are different configuration than the high availability pools, primarily because with regards to your Traveler servers in the high availability pool, sitting in front of them is going to be some type of load balancer. And on the actual phone itself, the URL will probably be that of the load balancer. For Traveler conventional, the users typically use the URL of the Traveler server itself. There's a lot more information on Traveler High Availability in terms of how it works and how you get there. But that's going to be delivered in a future presentation. Here's our contact information. Please feel free to contact Alan or me if there's anything that we can do to help you with Traveler. And I want to thank you very much for your time. And as Scott promised, now is the time for questions.
All right. We already have plenty of questions queued up here to probably extend the conversation out probably a couple of hours, but we
All right, we'll do our best.
so there's a lot of
Wow.
information that people do want to know, and more coming in. So let me, I got to scroll back up here. Um, okay. Get the screen wide enough here so I don't have questions in, 3-word columns. Okay,
I'm so pleased that we had a capacity crowd here today.
Yeah, it was a very good crowd. Okay, what are the best practices for removing devices lost, stolen, or replaced? And what are the best practices for removing users when they are no longer with the company and they had Traveler installed on personal devices?
Okay. Overall, if you are using a or actually, I'm sorry, let me take that back. Overall, there is a way to remove that information through that Traveler policy document that I was showing you, or the settings document, and also through the Traveler database. You can do auto wipes. Let me bring up that file real quick. I'm going to look at the Traveler database. But here in the Lotus Traveler database, now granted this is a Traveler server of 1. It's always nice to have your own Traveler server. You don't have to worry about performance issues. But here within, you can select a user and then you can use the wipe device button, which will give you options of exactly what you want to do. You can just do the Traveler application and data, hard reset device, or storage card.
And I would just jump in there to say that if it's a personal device that belongs to somebody else, you could find yourself in a political problem if you do a hard device reset, totally wipe it out.
Absolutely.
You know, if it was my device and somebody did that to me, I would probably be upset. However, I would certainly expect that if I left the company that they would have the right to remove the Traveler application and any data off there. So that would be my my best practice.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you, Alan. Absolutely.
All right. Sorry, I need to scroll back up for the next question. We've had about 15 come in here to the last second. And keep scrolling my list. So sorry about this. Okay. I have a question about contacts and sorry. I have a question about contacts added to the list. We are using Traveler currently and noticed that there was no way to get contacts natively onto the phone. It is nice to have a lookup, but not being able to voice dial causing issues. Will Traveler ever support contact syncing natively on iPhones and Android devices, or will this feature also be supported? And will this feature also support the to-do list as well? This almost sounds like a question for IBM, but maybe Heather, you have some insight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do believe, don't take me absolutely 100% certain for this, but I think Traveler 9 will do the to-dos for the iPhone. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm kind of thinking maybe that would definitely be something to look at the Notes 9 release notes or the Traveler 9 release notes. With regards to the contacts, I'm kind of unclear if we're talking about contacts that are stored on the iPhone, like somebody's actually entered their own contacts on the iPhone, or if they're talking about their mail contacts that they've put in the Notes private address book. If there are contacts in the private address book, through the address book you can go, you can either do this via policy, or you can go individually to the user's contacts mail database, or private names.msf on their workstation, and you can go to more preferences and then choose the option to sync contacts, and then those will automatically sync between the mail file and the private address book, and then subsequently they will synchronize with the phone over the air. So, but as far as if the question was more with regards to the personal contacts that somebody's actually entered on their iPhone, that definitely is an IBM question, or look at the Traveler 9 release notes.
All right, perfect. And we move on to the next question. Um, okay. How do you list all Traveler mobile devices, active and inactive, and the last time they logged in?
Okay. Well, I mean, first of all, here in the Lotus you do have a list of all users, and it shows your online state. And then in addition, you can also go into each individual document, and at the individual document, it will show to you, the last time that device synchronized. Now, as far as a list,
Screen doesn't seem to be updating.
yeah, I know. I'm sorry about
Okay.
that. I'm not sure what's going on, but
All right.
overall, that would show it in that individual document. You also had that command I showed you where you can show an individual user. Now, as far as all users, I know that command does not take an asterisk. So to see if there's a way to show all users, that would have to be something that we'd have to research offline, and we can definitely do that and post a response later.
I will also add that Vital Signs does provide that as an option, because we read the list of users out of the Traveler NSF database, and then you have the option of filtering it down either the number of devices that either have or have not synced, and you can specify any time period you want.
Okay. How do you configure what notes fields are served up in the Traveler lookup?
That is actually a great question, and I believe that's through the MapDir database. If you go to your Traveler server, on your Traveler server you actually have a Traveler folder, and in that Traveler folder you have this map folder. And these databases here are things that you can go and you can change some of the default functionality. My personal recommendation is definitely read the documentation and even do this on a test server. Maybe open a PMR with IBM and do some general Q&A with them. But using these databases, you can change that default functionality.
Wow, had a good answer.
I like that. Dang. I was expecting her to go,
Dang,
this
she
might be
knew
something
that.
to research and get back to you. It's
Yeah, we'll research it. No, she had it off the top of her head.
cool.
Yeah, that's just a very high-level answer. There's definitely a lot of devil in the details there, but that gets you on the right track.
Yep, exactly. Okay, I'm going to skip a couple here and come back to them. Okay. What is the largest number of Traveler users that you've seen running acceptably on a single non-dedicated server? Wow, that's a loaded question. All right.
It is, but I would say about 200. But I mean, granted, you have to also remember our Pure Wyatt, while we do have some larger clients, the majority of our support, or the clients that we help with Lotus Notes and Domino are in the small to medium business environment. So about 200 is what I have personally seen.
Is that 200 users or 200 devices?
That would be 200 devices.
Devices, okay.
I think the key qualifier there also is non-dedicated, because if you're running other things on the Traveler server other than Traveler, that does dramatically reduce the number of users that it can support. And we have seen on dedicated Traveler servers, real high-end boxes, companies that have upwards of 1,000 users on a box.
Very good. All right. Okay. Sorry here. This is kind of a follow-up comment here for one of the questions.
No problem. Take your time.
So I'm just making sure I read through this and get it correct. Not a question, but for the one just asked, so of course that might have been a few minutes ago, for all users, go to the Devices section in the Lotus Traveler database. It shows user devices and contact time. So that's kind of a follow-up on about if you could see all users when they logged in. So
Cool.
Go to the Devices section, Lotus Traveler database. It does show you some additional information.
Very cool.
All right. Here's a comment from another user that they are running 500 users on a single server. So
Excellent.
it's a nice confirmation there.
Yeah,
All right,
good to know.
let me come back to a couple other questions here that, and the reason I kind of postpone this one, is this was actually a question about the Vital Signs product. How much resources does the Vital Signs program use on a server? Is it loaded on each server or only on the admin server? And how much resources used when it is running?
Alan, I'll let you take that one.
Thanks. Well, it actually doesn't take any resources on the server because it's not loaded on the server. It is, as far as the server is concerned, just another Notes user out of the network. I mean, it's a fairly busy user, but effectively what it's doing is periodically using the Notes client to send a series of commands like, in this case, show stat traveler, and then we just parse the information out and put it in a database. So it doesn't really affect the production environment at all.
Excellent.
That's the answer.
That is the answer. There you go.
There you
All
go.
right. Cool. It looks like one of the attendees is also putting in some contact information here for a company that offers a contact syncing solution. So we'll put that in an email, in the follow-up email,
cool.
so everybody can go and check that out. So that's very good. Thank you, Rainey. Not sure how to pronounce your name there, but thank you for that information. We got some more. I got to scroll back up because I'm sorry. Every time someone types in a question, it starts scrolling my screen. I'll have to make a suggestion to go to a webinar that they change that.
Well, sure, blame it on the end user.
Exactly. It's the way that we do. We just pass the blame on down the road here. Quick question, Heather. Will you be able to share? Would you be willing to share your slides with the audience?
Yes, I would absolutely be willing to do that.
Okay, great. We will post that with the recorded. We are recording this as well, so we'll get it all fixed up and translated.
That'll be posted on the website too as well.
Okay, perfect. And that'll be posted over the RPR Wyatt website, and we'll also have it posted at the Notes Code website when we get the video translated to Flash and post it up for everyone to review and maybe show colleagues if you want. Okay, so we addressed the contacts. I'm scrolling down the list to make sure I haven't missed any questions here. Okay, so there was a question about are there any more details about high availability? Heather, you kind of indicated that that would have to be kind of a separate presentation just because I think maybe more in-depth information.
It is. High availability, there is a lot in terms of getting there. If you already have existing Traveler servers, how you move them over to a high availability pool. There's a lot of devil in those details, and so we would definitely like to share that. We just feel that it requires its own presentation, and if y'all will have us, we will happily do another one in the future.
Yeah, today's presentation almost was on high availability.
Yeah, perfect. Quick question on coming back to the installation. You said, yeah, the installation, you just install it. Are there any other tips and tricks about the installation that will make the Traveler server a little more stable, a little more friendly, or is it pretty much just straightforward?
Now, the actual installation itself is very straightforward. Think about how many users you're going to have on there, and if needed, go ahead and, if you think very quickly you're going to have a very high number of devices, then go ahead and set that HTTP threads setting that we talked about that's set in the server document. Also, and also the other threads, thinking about those, and if you need to monitor or change those across the board and from the get-go. The other thing I would recommend is using the information we talked about and monitoring, keeping an eye on things. As the server grows, don't let it go from being a little pair of guppies one day to being a whole tank full of guppies a few weeks later, and now, oh my gosh, what's happening. Keep an eye on it and watch it grow.
Yeah, in our experience, it grows explosively, and people are always surprised at how many users are on there that they didn't quite expect. People have more devices than they initially admit to, and pretty soon it's just it becomes a mission-critical server that is going right to capacity 24 hours a day.
Right. Yeah. Well, like I said, the initial installation is wicked easy. It's then just having your ducks in a row from the get-go, so that you are not blindsided by any problems that occur. Keep an eye on the server.
Great. What are the...
That's a little Boston slang for you. Wicked easy.
Wicked easy?
It's wicked easy. Those of you not from Boston, that means it's very easy.
Yeah. Translation, please, Alan.
I speak both.
Exactly. Perfect. What are the top 2 or 3 arguments that a notes administrator could make to an executive to say, look, we really need to have a dedicated Traveler server, or we need to move to high availability?
Okay,
Save
my
all that
thoughts,
money on buying devices.
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
in order for your users to be at their optimal productivity, you need them to be available when they're mobile. And, I mean, in our day and age, we are moving around all the time, and also we have flexible work schedules. I may need to take 2 hours off to go to my son's soccer game, but does that mean I'm not connected to the office while I'm at my son's soccer game? If I've got things going on, I need to know about it, that's kind of a work-life balance issue there, but at the same time, we also are constantly crossing the boundaries. And with BYOD becoming a real big force in every company out there, and with needing your users to have real-time access and constantly be on, that's really where you need to have Traveler. And then how you're going to get Traveler to be stable is to have it on its own server, and also how you're going to get Traveler to be truly fault-tolerant and be available, get close to that 5 nines that people want in their mail and their other servers. That's where you need Traveler high availability. So it comes down to how vital is Traveler in the organization, and of course, the more important an application becomes and users are not going to tolerate an outage, that's how you can get the high availability pool battle won.
And I would just throw in there that, if you're trying to convince a specific executive, then you just look them in the eyes and say, well, how important is it going to be to you?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Would it be okay to you if it goes down, a couple of hours a week while I do maintenance or while I'm compacting the Derby database? If you make it personal, and it becomes a lot easier for the person to imagine what it would be like without it, I think.
Great. We have a Traveler server with Windows 2008 R2, Hyper-V server with 5 gigabytes dedicated memory. Can you give us any recommendations? Are we good, or should we upgrade?
Well, again, it's hard to say without knowing many more details about the environment. Is this server going to be doing other functions within Domino? Is it a mail server? Is it just going to be a standalone Traveler server? How many devices? How many mail users? So I don't have the answer to any of those questions, but I mean, off the bat, 2008 64-bit V2 R2 running on VMware, 5 gigs of memory. Memory's cheap. I would go at least probably 8 or 12 gigs if you're going to have any kind of decent load on that box. But, again, not knowing details, I can't really say for sure, but maybe some more memory.
All right, perfect. Is it possible...
The person can email us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt. That person can email us, and we could get into more specifics.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay,
perfect. Is it possible to have Traveler servers in high availability with the nodes at different locations?
I have not seen it. I haven't seen anybody actually try it. IBM says they have to be on the same physical network. And while I haven't tried it to test it to see why it doesn't work, I think it's because of all of that real-time synchronization that needs to occur with the back-end relational database. You need to have everything on the same physical network so it's happening very quickly. I haven't actually tested it. It's one of those things kind of like playing football in a baseball field. It might work, but it's going to have limitations.
Yeah, it's probably not recommended, even if you could get it to work.
Well, IBM doesn't recommend it, so until they put forth a solution that does support, and they do say, it does support multiple locations going over a WAN, I wouldn't do it in a production environment.
Okay. A follow-up here to that question about the Windows 2008 server. It will be a dedicated server with 200 to 400 users. So again, Windows 2008, Hyper-V with 5 gigabytes. Any additional recommendations?
Like I said, I would maybe consider 8 to 12 gigs of RAM, but also you want to make sure, granted I know this is like a ha-ha because every disk anymore is going to have tons of free disk on it, but you want to make sure you have at least 500 megabytes free so that everything in Traveler works fine. But yeah, I mean that should be okay. I would think so.
Yeah, I would say initially it sounds good to me.
Okay. Perfect. Does Traveler, I guess, is there a difference of Traveler on a tablet versus a smartphone? I'm not sure where the question's going here, but
yeah, bigger screen.
Yes.
maybe you get a little clarification there about
I mean, I can take that one. Certainly on an iPad, it looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's just gorgeous. Looking at the calendar on the iPad and on full screen is just it really does make, I think, Domino cool again. When you come to the Android, they don't use the built-in applications. They provide their own applications that IBM has built, and in the past they have not been quite as beautiful as the Apple ones. But what I saw at Connect 2013, it looks like they're very hard at work trying to make the Android applications also be beautiful and functional at the same time. And of course, when you get to a phone, there's limitations to what you can see on a screen, and that's okay too. But check out all the different devices, and I think it's a matter of personal preference.
All right, perfect. Let's get to the next question here. What about gotchas as related to Traveler being used as a connector for BlackBerry BDS, and how does it support BlackBerry 10 devices?
Okay, right now, Traveler 8.5.3, whether you're on a fixed pack or upgrade 1 or 2, doesn't do any BlackBerry support. To do BlackBerry, you have to use the BlackBerry Enterprise Server. I'm going to talk a little bit about Lotus 9 and Traveler 9 and BlackBerry 10 for just a moment, very high level. BlackBerry 10, they have changed their synchronization model, so they're now using that active sync piece. So on you are going to need a Traveler 9 server, which needs to run on Domino 9. The BlackBerry 10 device, whether you're using just a 10 device or you're using BlackBerry Enterprise Server, that's going to synchronize with the Traveler service to get to the mail. So the difference between those two methods is if you're using BlackBerry Enterprise Server 10 and you're synchronizing against Traveler running on your Domino server to get to the back-end mail data, you are then synchronizing through the BlackBerry Enterprise Server, which means you're using that secure BlackBerry network. Also, what that gives you on the device itself is the separation of what they're calling balance, where you have all your work information in encrypted format, and you have your personal information on a separate piece of the device, so they're completely separated. If you have that BlackBerry 10 device going directly against Traveler, it will synchronize the mail, but you have no balance, and you also are not going against that secure BlackBerry network. So it really comes down to the organization, and I would say, first of all, how important it is to use that secure backend that BlackBerry provides, and two, do you need on your devices to have balance running?
Okay. How would you handle disaster recovery with Traveler?
Ooh.
You're talking real life disaster recovery. Like, yeah. I just had, an earthquake in California, and my data center is completely offline. That's where disaster recovery, I think ultimately comes down to planning before there's a disaster. I live in Houston, Texas. 4 years ago, we had Hurricane Ike come through. I personally in my house did not have power for over 2 weeks. I had a client down in Galveston Island. He couldn't even get on the island for 10 days to get to his Domino servers that were sitting there. Ultimately, I would think, my recommendation is to do planning ahead of time. And knowing that Traveler doesn't really give you that ability to have servers in different locations, depending on the size of your environment, of course, depending on budgets, have a server environment, a data center somewhere where you're, leasing boxes, and very quickly you can get those boxes up and running.
All right. Good deal. Okay, you know what? Believe it or not, I think we have answered all of the questions and have only gone 1 minute over time. So
Wow.
it's like we planned it this way or something. So
Yay!
if I have missed a question, I do apologize to you if I've missed your question, but we will review the questions. It does keep track of it for us, and if we've missed it, we will send out an email to you, or sorry, I should say Heather. We'll send out an email to you if we've missed your question. But thank you, everyone, for your questions. Thank you for attending today. Heather and Alan, thank you so much for doing the presentation. And I'm sure everyone will be wanting to know, well, how soon before we'll do the high availability presentation. So we'll get back to everyone. We'll get that planned and an email out to everyone, of course. So
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Scott.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Bye, all.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.